Welcome to your next Chills Before Sleep. Let's go back to my school career. I had a full-on mindset on getting a bachelor's degree at the time. Furthermore, I was going for the 4-year degree, but I ended up having difficulties in the degree because of reasons stated later. I was a 22-year-old female then, and I'm 35 now. All of this started when my second year in college began. I started off really strong in academics and got fantastic grades. I lived down the street in an apartment-type room by myself. I prefer that myself, actually. Anyway, I would walk to the college in the morning and usually get a ride from the other students that lived in the same complex. In the afternoon of some day, well halfway through the first quarter, there was a guy that I met through one of my friends that I saw in the morning. Her name was Kate. Kate brought him to campus, and he didn't go to the college yet. She was getting him set up, but he really couldn't say 2 consecutive words to me, since he looked socially awkward. I thought maybe college would help him with that. I was even willing to help him break out of that shell if he wanted that. He had different plans, though. After he got enrolled, Kate started bringing him to his classes since he didn't have a ride. I congratulated him on his enrollment, and that was my biggest mistake ever. Apparently, Kate forgot to tell me that he had a very obsessive personality. He thanked me, but I guess he wanted to show his appreciation some other way. Later on, I kept seeing him between classes and all over the place without Kate. Up until now, he'd been attached to her at the hip. He came up next to me every chance that he got, ultimately, to hang on me. I told him to back off, that I wasn't comfortable having him do that. He stopped when I told him to, but he wouldn't remember my preferences. I'd have to tell him each time. That was until Kate saw it and told him. She scolded him hard for it. After that, he didn't hang on me, but he did sit there and stare at me with blank eyes, with zero expressions. It used to really creep me out. It was really unnerving how he would just blankly stare at me with his eyes open. He wouldn't say anything or add anything to our conversations. I don't know what was wrong with this dude, but he wasn't handicapped, or I probably would have had more patience with him. After Kate scolded him, he stopped hanging around me much anymore. It happened in intervals. First, he completely stopped touching me. I was fine with that, and I'd be okay if that was the only thing that changed. He then started sitting very far away from me when in social situations. After that, he started getting further and further away from me. I was okay with that if he didn't want to be friends, but that wasn't his plan. He planned to stalk me over the course of the rest of the quarters of college. I started noticing some of my stuff went missing. I found out what he was doing with these things when Kate told me as she was driving him home one day. He pulled out my jacket from his bag that she recognized as mine. She didn't immediately say anything, but he sat in her back seat and sniffed it. Kate told me that she called him a freak and took it away from him. He tried to claim the jacket as his, but she knew better because she knew I've been wearing that jacket ever since the start of college. Basically, I was wearing that jacket for a few years now. Busted, dude. After Kate gave me my jacket back, I washed it. After Kate scolded him, he stopped stealing my stuff, but that did not stop that creep. It motivated him more. He then began taking pictures of me. I knew by this time that he did like me, but doing stuff like this isn't the way to show it. Taking pictures of someone is just creepy behavior. He really tried hard to be creepy at that time, but I drew the line when I had to walk home one night, due to leaving after everyone else did. I had to stay late for an assignment. The creepy person came there as well. I was sitting in the library studying and completing my assignment. Suddenly, my sixth sense started tingling. I knew someone was staring at me. There weren't many people at the library at the time, so I could hear the smallest of movements too. I turned around, and I could see the quick movements of someone. I immediately knew it was him. I got up with my bag and started walking towards another table. I could feel someone was following me. I just sat at the table where the only few students left were studying. That was a point of relief, since he left me at that point. Coming back to the time when I was walking home from the library, my sixth sense tingled again. I knew he must have been waiting for me someplace else, and he was. I just started walking towards my apartment. He followed me home. As I entered my building, I saw him trying to run away from being seen. I called Kate to come up and get him, and tell him not to be following me home like that. When I told her this, she was absolutely furious. She came dangerously flying into the complex to scold him some more, and to get him out of there. But as I predicted, he didn't stop there. The next day, his attitude completely changed. He was no longer the wonder-filled he had been. He was angry and sulky. I could definitely tell what she had done to him. He saw me and just flipped out and left. I really didn't care, since he put himself in that position. So he pretty much stayed away from me. Until somewhere around the final quarter. That's when I noticed him outside by my window hanging out at night. He was stalking me again. I was over this, and I wasn't going to Kate this time. I went to the college. I contacted the college and told them that he was stalking me, and I didn't feel safe anymore. However, they made excuses for him. They did nothing at all. I went into the control office the next day and told them I didn't need someone stalking me if I was going to continue going to college here. They told me to just quit if I was going to threaten the college in any way. That wasn't a threat. That was a conditional statement. They should have known that. Also, who am I threatening with this? Not attending anymore? That really only affects me. So I ended up having to leave the college a little after more fighting with this. They wouldn't help me, and neither would the police. After I called the police on this matter, when he got weirder and worse, the college felt offended and started asking me to leave. At that time, I had my full focus on the 4-year degree, so I was basically forced to stay in college for a few more weeks. But with the circumstances, I decided to change my college, where I could continue on the same page in peace. However, that cost me a lot of money, and I had to work part-time to cover that up. After switching college, I was relieved to notice that the stalker was not active anymore. But here's when things got even creepier. I was studying at home and I heard my mail coming through my door. I opened the envelope and was shocked for a few seconds. It was a note that said, "You can run away from college, but you can't run from me." I almost cried and was so scared. At this moment, I realized he was stalking me outside my house. I ran to my bed and couldn't sleep all night, afraid of the boy who was standing in front of my house, looking inside with his creepy dark eyes. I had to leave in the morning for my new college, and again, he followed me there. At that time, he always tried to get close to me on the way. I even saw blood marks and scars on his face and arms. I realized that there is a chance he is going to hurt me. That's why I always tried to be around people who would act as a shield for me. I'm so glad he couldn't enroll in my classes, or he would have entered those as well. But as he was a student too, nobody stopped anyone at the library. I couldn't ever study or complete my assignment in the library, so I had to spend extra time in the classes to cover those up. As I mentioned earlier, changing colleges cost me a lot of money, and I had to work part-time to cover that up. I decided to join as a cashier at a local supermarket, where I would have a 6-hour shift from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. on weekdays. Somehow, he even came there to stalk me. As I was right beside the market's window, he used to spend hours standing outside, stalking me with dirty, almost looking like bloody clothes. This wasn't a once or twice per week basis. It was every day. After my shift ended, I walked home the same route as usual. It slowly went dark, and I felt that it was beginning to rain a little. Suddenly, it felt like I was not alone again, almost if someone was behind me. I quickly picked up a rock to defend myself and looked around to see if anyone was approaching me, but to my surprise, no one was there. I continued walking home a little faster, and I was relieved to see my house in the distance. I opened my door and stepped inside of my house. When I looked into the living room, my heart dropped for a moment. All of my furniture was moved to a different place, and my house didn't look like it used to. Someone has been in my house, or worse, there's still someone in my house. I knew it was him. I was mad and scared at the same time. I panicked and ran all over my house to see if the boy was in my house. I checked every corner and closet, but he was nowhere to be found. One day I had it. I had to confront him or even knock out his teeth. When I was coming back from my shift, I saw him following me again. I just turned back and saw him staring at me with blank eyes. His eyes were wide open, not even blinking. I angrily rushed to him and pushed him so he would fall on the ground. I succeeded in doing that, and he fell to the ground, but he kept his eyes on me constantly, not speaking a word. Even on the ground, his eyes were wide open and looked full black. I noticed that something fell from his pocket. Upon looking closer, I found out that it was my extra keys to my apartment. That was a seriously creepy moment for me. I took those keys, ran back to the house, and shut the door worryingly. God knows how many times he had entered my apartment and stalked me from there. Can't even think about it. I changed my lock and my keys the very next day. I was expecting that he would show up the next day, but he did not. However, I always had a feeling that someone was watching me. I knew who. I just had to ignore him for only a few months, because that was my last semester for the 4-year degree. Just as I finished my degree with not so great results, I moved back home and never looked back. Once I moved back, Kate stopped talking to me, and I never saw my stalker again. I planned on going back to the city in a few years to visit a few friends or discuss some stuff with Kate, but as time got closer, I stopped caring about going back, and I started looking for work. I found myself a decent little job, and I was able to pay my bills. It still burns me up that Kate's friend was allowed to get away with stalking. He even had a major role in disrupting my degree. It is 10 years later, but those black eyes are still haunting me in my sleep. This experience crushed me, and I never walk alone to my apartment in my hometown as well. Every time the mail comes for me, my heart drops. It is hard to forget, and I can't sleep tight anymore. Thank you for watching this video. Have you experienced a similar situation or another scary experience? Don't hesitate to submit your story by email or in the comments section down below. Ready for your next Chills Before Sleep? Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to enable all notifications. Be the first one to get the chills.